I personally don't live on Reddit, but I do from time to time peruse the BJJ and Jiu-Jitsu Reddits for inspiration when it comes to making content for Victory Submission Strength, because there are a lot of questions about strength and conditioning on both of those subreddits. And so for me personally, I thought it would be fun to go through some of my favorite strength and conditioning mega thread questions and some of the comments on them, and maybe debunk some myths that circulate on probably one of the biggest social platforms in the world, in Reddit.
Yeah. As we were going through this, oh, by the way, I'm going to be answering questions solely focused on competition. Because that's the only thing I know about. I don't really know about many other things, but I have competed a handful of times over the last few years. So a lot of the competition questions are things that actually we were just talking about this yesterday. A lot of these things, we look at them and they feel like pretty obvious questions, but then you remember that a lot of people aren't doing strength and conditioning, haven't researched it much. And then same thing with competition. A lot of people are like just doing like their first competition ever, or their second competition or whatever. And like all of these questions that are being asked, and it's a lot of repetitive questions too.
Right. They do pop up often. It's kind of, same thing on the strength and conditioning side.
Yeah. So we're going to supply answers to the best of our abilities. Were you going to say something else?
No. Let's rumble.
Let's do it.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
You can start.
All right, cool. Okay, so first of all, I should probably point out that this is not meant to pick on any one person, unless their advice is just downright awful, in which case they deserve to be reprimanded. Okay, so here's one that I kind of liked. I thought it was a good question, actually. I'd like to switch from a 4-day bodybuilding split to a 3-day strength and conditioning one, but I have no idea how to structure it or what exercises to do. Any help would be appreciated. And then there were a couple of comments on that question that I just could not help but wonder why.
Wait, so what's the issue he's trying to solve?
Well,
he's doing a 4-day.
He's doing a 4-day.
He wants to go to.
He's doing a 4-day bodybuilding split.
Split.
For those of you who don't know, like a bodybuilding split is typically your chest, tris, back, bis, quads, hamstring. Like they like separate all of those things and then only work on that muscle group that day. And they might hit it with 10 or 12 different exercises and just hammer that one group on any given day, and then go to the next group the next day, and the next group the next day.
So it might be like a bunch of upper body ones one day, and then like a bunch of lower body ones the next day.
Correct. Yeah. And the reason the person asking this question is making the right move. If they're a jiu-jitsu person, I would say if you're a bodybuilder, bodybuild away, fucking go for it. But I don't think bodybuilding is the best training for jiu-jitsu. If you train to look like a statue, you're going to move like one, right? And so moving to this 3-day strength and conditioning split that they're asking about, I think is the right call. The comment on it, one of the comments on it, if I were you, I'd take whatever you liked from your barbell days and do it like this. Day 1, push plus conditioning, squats, presses, tricep stuff. Day 2, pull plus conditioning. Day 3, accessory plus conditioning. And I think that leaves a lot to be, there's a lot left there. I don't know if that was I don't think that was a good answer in particular. The reason I don't like the push-pull split is because you don't get to choose in any given role what quality or attribute you are going to exhibit. So, for example, you may start out in a scramble that's like power and speed. You may end up holding somebody, trying to hold the position. That's isometric strength. Or you may end up, they may try to pass your guard and you're having to push and frame. So that's like a push. Or you may be playing guard and trying to sweep them, and so you're probably pulling on them. And so all of those things can happen within seconds. And so splitting things up into push and pull only, I think, leaves a lot on the table. I think like the way we approach it at Victory Submission Strength is, we try to push, pull, hinge, squat, all of our power and speed stuff and mobility and conditioning all at the same time. It's called the concurrent training model. And so that's how I would approach that. I don't know if I would have recommended push on one day, pull on another day, and then accessory on a third day. I think you can mix them all and probably should.
So you're going for like a full body type of situation to kind of get the most out of each day that you're working out, sort of is what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And
okay. And yeah, are you saying that there's anything wrong with a push pull split? Like you're still building strength, and
that's correct.
You're just saying like
you're saying there's more efficient.
You're saying there's more more efficient.
Yeah.
You're seeing more benefits if you're getting all of them kind of at the same time.
Correct. And I'll full disclaimer here. If somebody were doing like back-to-back days, then the push-pull split might be better than full body both days.
Oh.
It just depends, right? If they were doing Friday night and Saturday morning, it might not be the best idea to go full body all the way. It might be better to do push-pull. But in this case, it sounds like he's probably doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or something like that, in which case I would go full body all 3 days. The other caveat here is how often is he training jiu-jitsu? I don't know. If he's training jiu-jitsu 5 days a week, he might not even need 3 days a week of strength and conditioning. He might only need 2. So that's another question. It's not listed in here, so I'm not sure what he's doing, but I do think he's making the right move to move from bodybuilding to a more traditional sports performance, strength and conditioning split.
Nice.
What you got for me, Josh?
Cool. That was interesting. That was an interesting one. I always get actually very confused when people talk about like training because there's like I have no idea how to. I'm Matt's my strength coach, so he like does all the programming for me and everything. I've like never looked into or known how to actually structure a workout program. And I imagine a lot of people on Reddit are in the same boat.
I agree.
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
So one of these questions I found was, should I register for gi and no gi or save energy for absolute?
Okay.
This is an interesting question. So he's saying I'm signing up for a small sub-only tournament, round robin style. We'll get back to round robin. If I forget, let me know.
Okay.
So I'll be doing 4 matches in the gi. I feel quite confident I will place high enough to be invited to do the no-gi absolute division, as bronze, silver, gold in a division get invited, and I'm decent. I admire the confidence. It's only $10 more to register for no-gi as well, but most of the competitors in no-gi aren't signing up for gi, so I will have to face up to 4 matches with guys who are fresh after I've done 4 matches already. So his thing is like he'll do his gi division and have 4 matches there, and then he'll go to his no-gi division, and all the guys who are in his no-gi division didn't fight gi, so then he's worried about facing a bunch of fresh people in the no-gi division. And then he's like, should I also, I think what he's saying is, should I then also sign up for the absolute after that?
Should he also sign up for the absolute, or should he sign up for the absolute instead of one of the other divisions?
Face up to 4 matches who are fresh, plus hopefully go again in the absolute.
What was the initial question?
I'm unclear here because like he's saying I can't tell from the wording in the question. Okay. So normally what happens at these tournaments is like there would be a gi absolute division and then a no gi absolute division, right? And if you medal, depends if you're following like IBJJF rules, if you medal in a division, then you can do the absolute. And just to clarify terminology here, we're saying absolute, but usually that's just referring to open class, which is open weight. An open weight division is if you place well enough in your weight division, then you can go have matches in a division where it's all weight classes for your skill level. as opposed to when we normally say absolute division, absolute in all these tournaments refers to mixing belts also. So like Grappling Industries is a really popular one where they have an absolute division, which I've done the absolute division in Grappling Industries one time. They mixed, and it was for the gi. No, this one was no gi. They mixed black belts, brown belts, purple belts, blue belts, and they all followed the black belt rule set.
Oh, shit.
So we could do heel hooks. Like white belts could jump in there and be doing like heel hooks and stuff. All weight classes. So that's typically an absolute division. I imagine what this guy's talking about is probably an open class division.
Okay.
And I've never seen it to where you can place in gi and then be able to do like
The no gi.
I don't know if he's
Absolute.
talking about doing the no gi absolute or if he's talking about doing the gi absolute. But I think the main point here that it sounds like is like, should he do 3 divisions or 2 divisions?
Right.
And the way that it looks like he has to sign up beforehand. So there's the monetary cost associated with that. If you have the extra money, I always like my mindset going into these competitions is like, if you have the little extra money to like go ahead and sign up for the absolute, because I would say like try to get in as many matches as possible. Because I think people overthink tournaments a little bit, and they're like for this like local, small local thing or whatever. People get really strung out on like winning it and like trying to strategize, the divisions they're gonna do, like put way too much thought into it, I think. And I think there's a limit to how much thought you really need to put into these tournaments, because I think like for most people like you and me, and especially going to like a small local tournament, like just do as many matches as you can. If you're going to be spending money to go there, just the more matches you get, the more you're going to learn. Like that's just how I think about it.
Yep.
If like it's priced way too high, I don't know. That's your personal choice. But the only thing that it comes down to for me, because every tournament I go to, especially the IBJJF ones, if I have the opportunity to sign up for open class, I only sign up because you have to do it on the spot at those tournaments. You can't like pre-register for open class. I only do it if I feel like I'm not at risk for getting injured.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, because I've been injured in open class a few times.
Yeah.
I've like popped a rib, and then I ended up in the final of open class in Austin with the popped rib. And I in the final I just had to let the guy pass my guard, and I didn't like submit me.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
I can't fight this. And then
Would you have done that differently now?
Well, so that one was kind of a unique case because I popped my rib in the open class.
I see.
It was like
okay,
in my
you can, like,
semifinal of the
I see.
open class.
I see.
And I was like, if
Okay.
I withdraw due to injury, am I technically DQ'd and do I still get my medal? So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do the final.
Right.
But just
Okay.
I can't really fight. And I don't know if I would have still been able to eat on the podium or not. It was like a rules question.
Okay.
But if I was injured at a tournament, obviously, and I was like, had done my divisions and then I got injured, I'd be like, no way, because I need a
Right.
my case is a little unique too, because I think I compete at a higher frequency than more people.
Yeah.
This was during a time last year when I was competing literally. I averaged it out across the year. It was every 1.4 weeks.
Shit.
And usually it was like back to back.
Yeah.
Like the average is like when there weren't any competitions available or anything.
Right.
But yeah, doing the absolute to me is usually a question of, at most tournaments, it's usually a question of, do you feel like your risk for injury is going to go significantly up if you decide to do
Right.
the open class? So
Okay.
that's what I would say.
Okay.
And like all this stuff about like saving energy for absolute and the fact that these guys are going to be fresh, dude, fuck all that. Like,
Yeah,
stop
yeah.
worrying about all that.
Right. Just
like,
go.
yeah, the easy answer, dude, just do as many matches as you can. Stop worrying about it. It's not that big of a deal.
Cool. Yeah, I like
that's
that
what
one.
I would say.
Cool. Very cool. Here's one actually that didn't get any responses. I was really surprised that nobody responded to them. This was maybe quite a while ago, but in any case, the question was, how does your weightlifting routine change when preparing for a BJJ competition? The answer is it depends, and it depends on what tournament it is that you're doing. Are we talking worlds, or are we talking about a local? How often do you compete? How often do you strength train? There are a lot of other like follow-up questions that have to happen here, but broad strokes, if this were a case of, like, say, just the hobbyist or, somebody who competes casually, we'll say, I tend to lean on the side of not really tapering for it and, doing as much as you can within reason, and just kind of training through it and adjusting if you need to, adjusting maybe the week of, maybe dropping some volume down and maybe not doing every single set that you have scheduled on your program, but doing enough that you still get some work in. If this were, on the other hand, somebody who's very serious about competing, somebody who their goal is worlds, and then it changes a little bit. So if their goal is like to win a world championship and this is a local tournament, then I say train through it. Again, making the necessary adjustments based on how you're feeling that week. But I don't see a huge benefit in completely altering the program just for this one local tournament or smaller local tournaments. I do see a benefit in changing the program as you approach the big show. If in this case it's Worlds, you train regularly through the locals and through the practice competition, so to speak. And then as you get closer to Worlds, then start to alter things that are help with, we always want to be doing we want to be training the attributes that we feel are going to be the most important going into that tournament. For most people, that's being explosive and fast, because at that level, everything happens very quickly. And we want to make sure we're training that quality right before they go, right? And then we just work backwards from there and say, okay, if speed and power are the most important attribute that we need to work on right now, what's the thing that we need to work on to build ourselves up to that? And then one step further, what are the things that we need to work on to set ourselves up for the previous step? And so that's how I would approach it. And then I would say, we'll typically taper a little bit longer for bigger tournaments, maybe a week and a half versus half a week. Because at that point, the work is done. The work has been done. Lifting super heavy right before the tournament isn't going to get you there's nothing you're going to do that's going to get you stronger, overnight. There's nothing that's going to get you, faster or more explosive overnight. So the taper is a little bit longer for the bigger tournaments. I don't think it's too long. That being said, during the taper, I think it is important because different attributes atrophy at different rates. So what that means is your conditioning, as long as you train once or twice a month at the appropriate intensities, your conditioning will last pretty long. Strength, same thing. You could get by honestly on maybe once every other week. Again, that the intensity has to be appropriate, meaning it has to be enough to stimulate some sort of strength training response, but power and speed, that goes away after 4 or 5 days. That starts to be detrained. So I would say during that taper, we'll continue to focus on mobility and movement patterns and things like that. But then the heavy focus is just be quick and explosive, and then spend the rest of the time just recovering and making sure that you're fresh.
Yeah, you're not tapering everything at the same rate.
Correct.
You can hold your strength for longer than you can hold.
Right.
Yeah, I feel that too. I think everybody feels that.
Yep.
Oh, I was gonna say, oh yeah, we do this all the time with me too. We'll, because I train Mondays and Wednesdays, and then the competitions are on the weekends. And so for the longest time, we've on the Wednesday or whatever, we'll do less sets. We'll do the same exercises, but less sets.
Right.
And
but still same intensity.
Yeah, same
right?
intensity, same exercises, but then it's okay, do we really need that amount of volume going into the competition?
Exactly.
The other, I guess the question I have there too, at least in my experience, I do see some benefit to especially if you're doing these like practice tournaments, right? And keep in mind too, for all these tournaments, we're assigning the stakes to these ourselves, right? It's like maybe this isn't smart, but I've like, especially when I first started competing, I like treated every tournament exactly the same. I just didn't give a shit, which like you can do that if you want.
Right.
Like maybe a good, smart, prudent jujitsu coach and strength coach, and everybody would say like, you know, prepare a little more for worlds or something, right? like you know, people who are serious about it.
Right.
But like, I just want to like make the statement that you can literally treat any tournament however you want to do it.
Yep.
Like your coaches and we're all the ones like assigning these values to these different tournaments.
Right. Yeah.
So like lighten up a little bit,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Like you can take it as seriously or
Yeah.
not seriously as you want. It's your money. It's your time. It's like,
Correct.
At least that's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, actually, I'll ask you, would you think that there's any benefit to doing one of these like practice tournaments tired? And
As long as you're intentional about it.
Yeah.
Did you have another qualifier?
No, go ahead.
I think as long as you're intentional about it and you are you're doing it knowing that you're going in fatigued, and you adjust your game accordingly. Like, you know, there is something to be said. That's a really good question, actually. There's something to be said for, and we talked about this on the last podcast, is like there's something to be said for pushing through fatigue. And, you know, there's a time and a place for that. Is it every time? No. But it can be useful because when you're tired, you know, you typically, you know, you don't think as clearly. You're not able to execute techniques as cleanly as maybe you would if you were fresh. And so I would say that may be interesting to do that. And, you know, pre-fatigue is a type of progressive overload that, you know, sometimes we use in the gym, but could be used on the mats too.
Yeah. It's because like the thing to me is that you can't expect to go to every competition with a set of like perfect conditions, right?
Yeah.
So there may come a day when you didn't like when you tapered everything correctly, everything was fine, and you show up and you're still just tired as shit.
Yeah.
And like
have you travel sucked?
Yeah,
all
your
that
sleep
stuff.
sucked.
Yeah, your flight
you were
got
jet
canceled.
lagged.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Like,
It all
have you
happens.
competed like that before? Or is that going to totally throw you for a loop?
Right.
Like, I don't think we're saying like, to me, it's always just about injury prevention.
Mm-hmm.
Like most of my decisions about competing are based on, do I feel like I'm going to get hurt if I do this?
Yeah, it's probably a good question to ask yourself. Yeah.
And like, yeah, if you're like, so I think that is one of the benefits derived from like, even if you do decide to keep strength training and keep your normal training schedule throughout the week before your competition. I've done that so many times where I'll still train 5 days a week jiu-jitsu, do the strength training, show up to competition on the Saturday, compete. And like, if anything, I got some benefit from like, actually a lot of the times if you're training that consistently, it's not that much different to compete.
Right.
You're rolling with some more intensity.
Right.
It's not always like a huge deal. There was a guy who commented on one of my Instagram posts. He was like, dude, how are you competing every week? Cause like for us I think he was European because he said club. He said, at my jiu-jitsu club, like we had a whole training camp and then we tapered, you know, the whole week before. I'm like, you literally don't have to do that.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, you can do that.
Yeah.
Just know what you're going to get from both things.
Right. That's a good question. Yeah, try it.
Yeah, try it.
It sounds like you have.
Don't hurt yourself.
Don't hurt yourself. Exactly. Cool, man. What's
Cool.
next on your list?
Cool. So the next one is a question here. The title is very simple. I admire the simplicity of this title. It says IBJJF preparations. I'm intrigued.
Is there even a question mark?
No. It's a statement. His question is a statement.
IBJJF preparations.
Yes. All right, let's see where we're going with this. So he says, hello, everyone. I wanted to get your opinions on this. I'm going to compete in IBJJF Masters for the first time in a gi. Masters Division 30 plus, if you don't know. Okay, looks like he's been doing white belt no gi this entire time. which actually he says here, up to now I've been competing in no-gi as a white belt and have made it to the podium twice. Okay, I'm imagining these are not IBJJF tournaments because you can't compete no-gi as a white belt in IBJJF.
Okay.
So I assume he's done like some local tournaments in no-gi as a white belt, and now he's wanting to do his first ever IBJJF Masters competition. And I know which one this is because he says it's going to be in 3 months. He says it's a high-level competition, which is May 19th in Barcelona. So he's talking about Master International Europe.
Okay.
Which if you look at how points are calculated for like IBJJF Pans, Master Worlds, all of those like more major competitions, the Master International competition is one that has a huge multiplier like Pans. I think it might be equivalent to Pans.
Okay.
So if you win Master International, you get the same ranking multiplier as you would if you won Pans, which like seeds you higher for future competitions. Like there's some benefits to winning Master International.
Right.
I've done 3 of them. And actually when I was competing, I had no idea how the rankings and multipliers worked, and it just ended up where I was like, oh shit, okay, I got some points off that one. All right. But yeah, so that's how the context for this competition that this person is talking about.
Okay.
So he says it's a high level competition. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing your opinions, Os. I imagine this person's European too. Not that it matters for the question at all, but this one's in Barcelona. I'm wondering if 3 months of prep. The key to me here is this. There's 2 things here. He's saying I'm wondering if 3 months of preparation is enough for such a high level competition. One thing, like I don't think there's ever such thing as enough preparation. I think you and I have talked about this before, but a lot of people choose not to compete because they feel like they won't have prepared enough for it. And I think really that's just a fear of like losing the competition, which is a totally valid fear. But then you have to realize that like you could, what is the perfect amount of preparation? Like that's the question you have to ask.
Right.
Like, do you want 6 months? Are you going to be perfectly prepared in 6 months? What if you prepare for a year for a competition and some guy shows up and still smokes you?
Right.
Dude, nobody fucking knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you never know who's, like, you do know who's going to show up at the competitions, their name are there, but you don't know until you face that person, right? You have no idea who the fuck's there. So that's like that's the first thing. This question of preparation is like most of the time for most people, unless you're a very new grappler and competitor, no amount of preparation is going to be enough. If you're like a brand new person to jiu-jitsu and like your brand new first competition, like, okay, you should prepare a little, like, and by prepare a little, like know some basic jiu-jitsu, know the rules of the competition, know how to like not hurt yourself in grappling. Like those are the base levels of preparation, right? But once you have those sort of prerequisites to competing, I encourage anybody to compete. There's like no downsides to it unless you get terribly, terribly injured. But that usually doesn't happen. It usually doesn't happen. So that's the first thing here is like, it doesn't matter. Like just do it. And second of all, like whatever, let's imagine we're in the Matrix, right? We're assigning the stakes to all these tournaments ourselves, right? Like if you want to treat this as a high level competition, that's great. It could like motivate you to think about it in a certain way and like put extra discipline and effort into how you're training. Like there's no downside to like treating a tournament with extra attention because you can choose to do that. But I would say just always know why you're like, always be intentional about how you're treating these competitions, and know that you don't have to look at this as a high level competition. You can also look at this as yet another practice experience, especially for somebody who's a white belt, who's never done a gi tournament, who's going to do their first gi tournament at Master International. There's nothing different about this tournament except the marketing behind it and the fact that it has a higher ranking multiplier. Right. The same people that would show up for this one would probably show up for any other IBJJF, like in that area during that time period. Yep. Like we have to remember like what our level is. We're like, at least for me, like I'm a blue belt, right? Like this isn't ADCC World Championships, right? And like the only reason those stakes are higher is because these people are making their living off of those tournaments, right? They're getting these huge amounts of money, I think.
How much I don't know if it's huge amounts of money.
They're getting money. Like the stakes are different.
Yeah,
the stakes are different. Context.
The stakes are different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys have like instructional deals and things like that. if you win ADCC and you put it on an instructional, it maybe holds a little bit more weight.
Right.
You stand to make more money in the future if you like attain some of these titles. But for everybody else, like you're talking about, it's like not that.
Yeah, just relax. Like you can make it whatever you want to make it, right? Maybe I would win more if I didn't have this mindset. Who knows? But
No, I disagree. I think you have the right mindset about it. I think you have done a lot of work on the mental side of like getting over the fear and the all of the concerns that we're reading here on Reddit. And that I think that stymies a lot of people's effort even before they start.
yeah,
So.
he's just like blocking himself if he thinks he's not gonna have enough prep time and that it's like a high level competition. Dude, what high level white belt are you gonna face? If you find a high level white belt there and you have the privilege to have a match with that high level white belt, dude, that's fucking sick. Like, why would you pass up that opportunity?
Yeah.
Like, dude, it doesn't matter. Just yeah, that's my answer for all of these competition questions. Is it doesn't matter. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Over to you, Matthew.
Okay, this one I think we got time for one more each.
Okay.
Um,
After this one, I might have to change the battery on this camera.
okay. No worries. This one says, "How do I train legs? Sounds like a joke, but it's not. Whenever I train legs, they're absolutely goosed for the next few days, which makes it really hard to train BJJ."
What does goosed mean?
I would assume
walk
it
like a
means that
goose?
they're very tired.
I assume that too, but that's
I've never heard goosed.
That's a really specific word.
use it in that context, but I'm impressed with it. I do like it. I might pull that one. And then I like to read some of the comments because this I don't know what people are doing. One says either train legs more or train legs less. Thank you.
That's a really unhelpful comment.
A lot of people do one massive leg workout a week. Your legs are toast because you put them under major strain and they are recovering. That's probably true. They are maybe you're doing a little too much.
I've encountered that where I've taken off like months from squatting in particular, and then I'll do just a normal set of squats, and my legs are just like
Yeah, they're cooked.
Yeah, cooked, and
Or
I can't
goosed.
work out for a week. Yeah, my legs are goosed.
His legs are goosed. Okay. The next comment. Let's see here. There was one in here that really got me. Let's see here. Time. Where was it? Oh, here it is. I'm gonna call this person out. Incubus85 says, "Best way is spending a few sessions completely crippling your legs. You can slowly add volume, increase intensity, but at some point you're gonna end up hitting the mega DOMS days. DOMS just stands for delayed onset muscle soreness.
Mega DOMs.
I like to just go balls deep ASAP and smash them. Then they seem to recover way better. Seems to be no easing in, especially as I get older. Don't do that. Like,
I feel like that's just a troll comment, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. On Reddit, you never know. Some of the advice that people give. There was one, I won't read it on here because I can't find it, but there was one that was like, how do I strength train for BJJ? And somebody was like, overhead press to failure 5 times a week, squat to failure 5 times a week. I'm just like, please, like, people will listen to you. Like, don't tell people that. I like fear for whoever reads that and is like, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah,
because it happens.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like
true. Like a 17-year-old kid. He's
Right.
like, oh, that sounds fucking tough as shit, bro.
right, like you're gonna hurt
That
yourself.
sounds tough. TUFF.
Right. Best way is spending a few sessions completely crippling your legs. Please don't do that. Don't cripple
Dude,
your
actually,
legs.
if you don't have legs, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that might happen if you do that. So let me just start by saying, I'll go back to the original question. How do I train legs? I think it helps to make sure you're hinging and squatting throughout the week. So hinge, for those who maybe don't know, hinge is like a hip dominant movement, and a squat we would call like a knee dominant movement. And there is a place for bilateral or two-legged lifts, But I think the emphasis should be on unilateral or one-legged lifts. Single leg lifts are, in my opinion, they have the highest transfer to sport for most sports, not just jiu-jitsu, but most sports, because we run one leg at a time, we walk one leg at a time. When we pass the guard, we're typically shifting our weight from side to side, and there's not any particular point where we're standing there with 50% of our weight evenly distributed on both of our feet. And so I think making sure you mix in some unilateral single limb strength exercises is super, super important. I don't think you need to cripple them. I think you should ideally work your way up. And so if you're feeling goosed, maybe take some of the volume down, maybe take some of that. You may need to tailor the exercise selection a little bit. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can and probably should work your way up to a certain volume or certain weights on certain things so that you can train BJJ, because the whole goal of what we do in the weight room is to supplement what you do on the mats, not take away from it. So if you're doing stuff that makes it difficult to do the thing that you actually want to do, that should be your sign that you need to maybe slow down or do some things a little differently.
Yeah, I think you were saying, like, in the very first question that was asked about, like, bodybuilding. Like, if you're a bodybuilder, then
Then goose your legs.
Yeah, do the bodybuilding stuff, right? But the point is, like, if you're trying to get stronger for jiu-jitsu and then you can't train jiu-jitsu because you just goose your legs, like why are you goosing your legs, bro?
Yeah. Yeah, what's the point?
Stop goosing.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's something that a lot of strength coaches miss is the why. Like, any good strength coach should be able to look at their program and go down and tell you exactly why everything was chosen. And if they can't do that, then you need another strength coach. Like, there should be a reason for all of these things. So don't goose your legs. Build up to it. Start slow, start light, and then, add appropriate resistance accordingly. Cool.
All right, so we got one question left?
Yeah, one
Just
question.
mine?
Yeah,
Okay.
one question left.
All right. So, last question here is about injuries. Title is Strained Hip Flexor Competition in 6 days. Dude, and I swear this guy's doing the same competition that I have tomorrow. Yesterday I was running late to comp training, and like an idiot went in with literally zero warm-up, full blast, and with the first 30 seconds trained my hip flexor. I tried to tough it out and kept going. Okay, his hip flexor is fucked now. There's a lot more details in here, but anyway, I have a competition Saturday, so I'm wondering if I should back out or not. It sucks because I had to back out of my last competition, and I know the guy who's running the event, and I told him I would be there, but I know I'm not going to be 100%. This is probably Arte Suave Elite, which is happening tomorrow. Like, it sounds exactly like...
It's so funny how you're able to, like, reverse engineer the question to figure out exactly where these people are.
Yeah, which competition this is. This might even be a CTA guy.
That's funny.
Because, like, I don't know who else is doing... Yeah. Anyway, his name is Eastern Idea 5097. If you see this podcast, then Eastern Idea... I bet you I could triangulate who he is. Anyway, all right, we got a couple minutes left here, but so he's like, should I recover and still do it, or should I back out? Like, I've read that Epsom salt baths and ice baths help. Yes, they help. For the context, I've done so it's the running total of my competitions is 63 competitions, and I've had to back out of, like, if I had to guess, I have it written down, but I have like a strike through on the competitions where I was injured. I'd guess it's around like 5 or something, due to injuries, and it sucks every single time. But then every time I cancel it, I'm relieved, because the thing is like, this is another one of those like personal decision questions too. Like, actually another guy on Instagram just messaged me and had a very similar question. He's like, I gotta compete Saturday, and like, I think it was his rib or something. He's like, do I compete and just know I'm going to re-injure it and then have to take time off of training, or do I like not compete and then just recover and like basically do nothing and just have to sit there and recover for a few weeks anyway if I'm still going to have to recover after the competition? It's like, for me, knowing that I wanted to compete again soon was like the driving factor for me deciding to not compete injured.
Right.
I think it also depends on the injury too.
Yeah.
I've gone into competitions injured. Like I have a pretty badly injured thumb right now. It's starting to heal up, but I can't actually grip anything like with this hand. And I've competed twice since I've injured it. And I've gone into both of those competitions knowing that I just don't have full use of my right hand. So I'm competing like that. And I'm competing in such a way where like I'm gripping in ways that like I'm going to try to not re-injure my thumb. I'm not going to put my hand in a precarious position. And it's like, okay, I'm learning how to compete with 1.5 hands.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a personal decision. I don't think it might not be a prudent decision for somebody to recommend that you compete injured in order to learn those lessons. But you can do it. And then there's injuries where like, if you compete with a popped rib, dude, that fucking hurts for one.
Yeah.
If you compete with a strained hip flexor, like there goes all your guard.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might strain it again. Now you might be out. It's hard to say. Are you going to be out for an extra 2 weeks now? Are you going to be out for an extra month? Are you going to actually tear your hip flexor? Because like this is your second competition ever, and like you don't know how to control your energy yet in a match, and you're just going to go way too hard and then tear something.
Yeah.
Like
There's a lot of variables there.
Yeah. So it's kind of a personal decision, but I will say from my experience that every time I've been injured and been like, man, like you have a voice in the back of your head that's like, I'm going to just hurt myself more. I'm not going to be able, because I want to compete again shortly after that.
Right.
Then I'm like, dude, I'll back out. It doesn't fucking matter anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And like, maybe he told the guy he was going to be there. So I think he kind of feels bad too about it because he knows the promoter of the event. Fredo, is that you? Fredo, forgive this guy. And so I would say maybe to somebody like that, like if you're going to pull out of this competition, keep in mind too, like if you're in any kind of major metropolitan area, there's probably another competition coming up soon after that. You can just heal up and just do that one.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is that there's always more competitions.
You're right.
Right. Unless it's, I can't say that on YouTube. Can we say COVID?
I don't know. Can we?
I don't know.
Okay.
Do we get a banner? I don't know. Anyway,
we're about to find out.
Yeah. Like obviously competitions weren't happening during, but that was like a global pandemic, right? Like that's the only exception. Can you just bleep out?
Yeah, I can bleep it out.
Sorry, Matt. Matt has to edit these. Damn it. Like there's always like there's pretty much always going to be another competition. So I would say personal decision. If you're willing to potentially mess yourself up, like, dude, do your thing. Like, do your thing, bro. But from a practical perspective, there's going to be more competitions.
Right.
Again, third answer, same thing. How much does it really matter? Probably not that much. That's what I would say. If you are going to try to recover, like not much, you're not really going to have that much you can do in a week anyway. So cool. That's it for that one.
Cool. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Thanks for the Roll. I actually don't have my notes in front of me. Oh, I do. Here we are. Thanks for listening to another episode, everyone. If you enjoy this podcast, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us at Thanks for the Roll on Instagram and TikTok. Give us 5 stars and write us a review wherever you listen, and share this with someone who you think would benefit from it. See you next time. Thanks for the roll.
Thanks for the roll.